It was 2:03 a.m. when David Carter's phone rang. He was half asleep on the living room couch, an old cartoon flickering on the television while his 6-year-old daughter Ellie snuggled against his chest. A soft sound of her breathing steadied him as he opened his eyes, blinking into the dim glow of the screen. Unknown number. He almost let it ring out. He never answered strange calls in the middle of the night, especially not anymore. But something in the tone of the ring, something in the silence that wrapped around it, made him reach out and swipe it anyway. Asterisk. Hello? His voice was low, scratchy with sleep. Asterisk a pause. Then the voice of a woman, shaking and urgent. Asterisk. Please. I didn't know who else to call. I think I made a mistake. He's not who I thought he was. I'm scared. Asterisk. David sat up slowly, careful not to disturb Ellie, who stirred but didn't wake. I think you've got the wrong number, he said gently. Asterisk. I know. But I just needed someone. Anyone. I thought I was calling Daniel, my driver, but you picked up and, her voice cracked. I can't go back into that house. Asterisk. David's eyes narrowed, trying to make sense of the situation. Her accent was light, her voice refined but frayed at the edges, like silk worn thin. Asterisk. He could have ended the call. He should have, but something told him not to. Asterisk. Where are you? He asked. Asterisk. A pause, hesitant. I'm at a gas station off Route 4, near Millfield. Asterisk. That was 30 minutes away. In a part of town where the gas station stayed open all night for truckers and desperate souls with nowhere else to go. Asterisk. He glanced down at Ellie, then shifted her gently onto the couch, pulling a blanket over her. Asterisk. Stay there, I'm coming. Asterisk. He didn't know why he said it. He just did. Asterisk. By 2:45 a.m., David pulled into the lot, his beat-up pickup humming under the fluorescent lights. The place was nearly empty except for a silver Mercedes, parked in the far corner, and a woman sitting alone on the curb. Asterisk. She stood when she saw him, arms folded against the cold. Her hair was long and dark, her dress elegant but torn at the sleeve. Makeup smudged, but her eyes still held a kind of fierce dignity. She was too beautiful to be standing here like this. Too put together to seem so broken. Asterisk. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I don't even know why you came. I just... Asterisk. I've got a 6-year-old daughter sleeping at home, David interrupted. So if I came out here at 3 in the morning, I figure you must have needed someone real bad. Asterisk. Her mouth trembled and then she nodded. Can you just drive me somewhere safe? A hotel maybe? Asterisk. Sure, he said simply. Come on. Asterisk. He didn't ask questions. Not yet. Asterisk. They drove in silence for a while, the road a ribbon of darkness ahead. Finally, she spoke. Asterisk. My name is Lila Harrington. Asterisk. The name didn't mean much to David, but if he'd been the kind of guy who read business magazines or watched high society scandals, he might have known. Harrington, as in Harrington Hotels, one of the richest families on the East Coast. Asterisk. I'm David, he replied. So what happened tonight, Lila? Asterisk. Her hands twisted in her lap. An engagement party, for me and a man I barely know. My father's choice. The press was outside. The champagne was flowing. Everyone smiled and laughed and told me how lucky I was. She turned her head to the window. But he's not who he pretended to be. And my father, he knew, he just didn't care. Asterisk. David didn't say anything. Just drove. Asterisk. I saw your number on the contact list by mistake. It was close to Daniel's, and you picked up. That's all I really needed, someone to pick up. Asterisk. When they reached the only 24-hour inn nearby, David walked her inside. He stayed by the door as she checked in, quietly paying for the room when her hands shook too much to manage her purse. Asterisk. You really don't have to. She began. Asterisk. I know, he said. But I've learned something raising a daughter on my own. Sometimes it's okay to lean on someone when your world's falling apart. She looked at him long, as if trying to memorize his face. Can I call you tomorrow? Asterisk. He hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, you can. Asterisk. The call came the next afternoon, then another the day after. Soon it became a rhythm. David would take Ellie to school, work a shift at the auto shop, pick her up, cook dinner, and later talk to Lila on the phone, sometimes just for 5 minutes, sometimes for an hour. He never pressed her, and she never had to pretend. A week later, she asked to meet Ellie. They met at a small local park. Lila wore jeans and a hoodie, blending in easily with the other moms, though David noticed how heads turned as she passed. Ellie took to her instantly, chattering away, holding her hand as if they'd known each other forever. Lila looked at David across the picnic table, a question in her eyes she didn't yet know how to voice. David wasn't sure what this was becoming. He was just a mechanic, a single dad with too many bills and a tiny house that still smelled like the past. And she was everything he wasn't, but none of that mattered when she looked at Ellie like she was magic. 2 months passed. Spring melted into summer. Lila began showing up at David's shop with lunch, then offering to watch Ellie while he worked. She helped with homework, went to dance recitals, sat on their ratty couch like she belonged there. David was cautious. He'd built a wall around his heart, piece by piece, ever since Ellie's mom left. But kindness has a way of seeping through the cracks. Then, one evening, everything changed. Lila invited them to dinner not at a restaurant, but at her home. Or rather, the mansion her family owned on the hill just outside town. David was reluctant. "I don't belong there," he said as he buckled Ellie into the car. "You belong anywhere your daughter laughs." Layla answered. The place was grander. Then he'd imagined marble floors, sweeping staircases, staff who stared at him with raised brows. But Leela didn't flinch. She took his hand, introduced him as her guest, and sat beside him at dinner like it was the most natural thing in the world. Until her father arrived. Frederick Harrington was cold steel wrapped in a silk tie. He shook David's hand with barely concealed disdain. "So," he said, sipping his wine, "you're the man who answered my daughter's drunk call at 2 a.m. David stayed calm. "She wasn't drunk. She was scared." "There's a difference." Frederick smiled without warmth. "You think kindness is enough to survive in our world?" "No," David replied, "but I think it's enough to change it." There was a silence that followed, sharp and heavy. Later, as David prepared to leave with Ellie, Lila caught his hand at the door. "I'm done pretending," she whispered. "With him, with all of it. I don't want a life of diamonds and deals. I want dinners on the couch, bedtime stories, pancakes on Sundays." He searched her face. "You sure?" She nodded. "Stay, please, stay forever." David didn't have a perfect life. He didn't have wealth or titles, but he had love and integrity, and a daughter whose smile could light up any room. And now maybe he had something more. A home built not on status, but on choice. So he stayed, and that choice made all the difference.